Welcome to another episode of Around the House. I'm your host, Steve O'Brien. Thanks for joining us today. What we do here is we talk about home improvement, home repair, and we touch on many, many different subjects relating to the home repair and maintenance industry. And we're going to do something today, we're going to talk about something today that we haven't talked about in any of our shows yet. And I believe this is a very, very important part of any residential home or business for that matter, is the roof that covers the dwelling. If the roof is compromised in any way, it's going to lead to many more problems down the road. So I believe the integrity of the roof is very important in any home or commercial business. With me in studio today is professional roofer Mr. Bill Flaherty. I'd like to introduce him. Hi, Bill.
How are you, Steve?
Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to your expertise, and you can show us some of the basic principles of roof repair and things that go wrong with roofs.
I'm glad that someone else recognizes the importance of roofing.
I do.
What were your words? It's probably the most important part of residential home repair?
Absolutely.
Well,
and I appreciate guys that do that for a living, because I'm not an expert at it. I did it when I was younger. You know, the knees, everything else gave out, and I realized that I couldn't do this much longer, but I've done it, and I've stripped roofs, and I know it's very labor intense. You're out there in the cold weather, windy, rainy, snowy, whatever you have to do to get the job done. So tell us a little bit about your experience, how many years you've been doing it.
I've been roofing residential 32 years, maybe a little more. Maybe a little less if you include some of the time that I've done other things. So give or take a year or two. Like I said, residential, mostly asphalt. Started my career mostly stripping, all old roofs in Brockton. Went from there to Boston, Mattapan, Rochester, Roxbury. Now I'm working mostly on Cape Cod. That seems to be where the work is. Cape Cod, we split probably 50-50 between new construction and old construction. I prefer strip jobs myself. It seems to make the days go by faster because you're working nonstop, constant.
Well, plus you have a clean slate to work with. You're getting rid of the old shingles and laying it over plywood.
Right.
Which it's just, you're starting from scratch, basically. Now, explain to us, Bill, why, and some people ask me this question, how many layers of shingles are you, in other words, some people don't want to spend the extra cost to strip a roof if they've only got one layer that you can lay over that, right, with shingles?
Yeah, you can defer the cost. It's going to cost way less to just do a layover. It's almost equivalent to doing new construction. You know, you don't have the stripping, you don't have to pick up the materials and put them in a dumpster, you don't have to pay for the cost of disposal. Labor is way less for a layover, but then you've got the weight of the shingles, 2 layers of shingles on your rafters, on your roof boards. There's pros and cons. You've got weight, yet you've got more insulation. Then later on, when you come back to do the roof, if you get
2 layers off.
If your son inherits the house, well, guess what? Now your son's going to have to pay a lot more.
That's what I thought about with my roof. I did the same thing. I had my roof replaced probably 10 years ago, and there was 1 layer on there. I could have done a layover and avoided the cost of stripping, but I figured my kids might get the house, or I might live to be 100, who knows, but I only put a 30-year shingle
You don't
on.
want to strip your roof when you're 100? 2 layers?
I don't want to be around with my 100. But that's you know, that's pretty basic, though. I mean, usually a lot of people, it's easy enough to try to talk them into stripping it off, because you've got the old shingles underneath, and sometimes they're buckling. They got little bumps and cups, and that'll create the new shingles won't lay flat as they should if you put them over shingles that are broken or buckled from the heat. Now, before we start running low on time, I want to keep it moving. I don't want to keep going on too long about one thing, so we'll keep it moving. You brought some of your basic hand tools of roofing, Bill. Could you explain what these are used for?
Every homeowner should probably already have all these. You know, these are basic things that I think if you move into any apartment or house, you're going to find these in somebody's basement. Probably find them under the sink from the previous owner. Obviously a hammer, tape measure. Tape measures used so little in roofing, it's not funny. Chalk line, I barely even use my chalk line because of the new shingles. The architects, they almost lay themselves down. Pair of tin snips for trimming step flashing. Your drip edge. Nail pullers for if you're stripping a roof, you want to be able to get the old nails out from underneath the step flashing.
Yeah.
2 different kinds of knives. You're going to use a hook blade for most of your shingle cutting.
I'd never used one of those.
And then you have a straight blade if you're going to cut any kind of underlayment like your paper. But that knife will go dull real quick on this. You could flip the shingle over if you feel like flipping your shingles over and over all day. Or you could just use your hook blade. Hook blade just cuts straight through the front of the shingle, so there's no flipping around.
Amazing. I never knew that. I thought that was what the vinyl guys use when they put down a linoleum floor.
Originally, this was sold as a linoleum cutter. And we just adopted this, I would say 25 years ago. I started using linoleum hook blades.
That is
and now
something
they
else.
sell them as roofing hook blades. So
Yeah, I just learned something. I learned something today on that.
Yeah.
All right.
And roof nails, 1.25" roof nails is your standard size.
If you're going one layer, if you're going
Yep.
2, you'd use a little bit longer,
Yeah,
right?
you probably use 1 3/4, maybe 2.
Okay.
1 3/4 standard usually.
And back years ago, it was all done by hand. Now you use coil nails.
Yeah,
I mean, it comes in a nail gun.
Yeah, we use air compressors, hoses. I believe it or not, just stopped hand nailing 5 years ago.
Wow.
The guy I'm working with now, before him, I was hand nailing. I hand nailed for, I think, 27 years.
Wow.
And I just started using a gun 5 years
Once
ago.
once you use a gun, you don't go back.
Yeah, I don't think I want to go back to hand
No,
nailing.
I mean, I did it for years, before they even had nail guns. That's how old I am. And we used to nail off plywood sheathing all by hand with 6-penny nails.
Yeah.
And all day long, that's
Right.
all you do is nail. And you get a rhythm going, but I always said I could out-nail a guy with a nail gun, but I tried a nail gun, and I said, what am I thinking here? But
Right.
you know, you have to go with the flow and stay up with technology.
Yeah, I used to try to convince myself that I was faster than nail guns, too.
Yeah, you just can't. There's no
No.
way. It's more, if you're working for somebody, it's all money, because with shingling, they charge by the square.
Right.
And, you know, if you're dragging it by doing it by hand, it's all adding up to dollars and cents.
You might want to comment what a square would be.
A square would be 10 feet by 10 feet,
Right,
which is 100 square feet.
Yep.
Right.
That would be, depending on the manufacturer, most of the times it's 3 bundles of shingles.
Now, 3 bundles in an architectural, is it 4? Oh, no, maybe I got it wrong. I know with the architecturals, there's less shingles in a bundle versus the old style tab shingles.
Well, the way they stack them, they stagger them so that it's still around the same amount of shingles. The old 3 tabs, they would just stack them straight up. Now they stagger the architects because
So
they're
they sit
thicker on one
flatter?
side.
I
So they
see.
sit flatter, so you can still get, 1 square can still be 3 bundles.
Okay.
But now you've got 20-year shingles, 25,
Bigger
30-year
bundles, though.
shingles,
Heavier.
50-year shingles. So
Heavy
the 50-year shingles usually run 4 bundles to a square because they're way thicker.
Thick.
Lasts
And
a
not
lot
too fun to
longer.
cut either.
No,
Oh.
not too fun.
I don't miss that. Let's go into the different types of the membranes. You brought some samples too, Bill. And the membrane is very important. Years ago, they used just a basic felt paper, which I think you have a piece of that with you, right? That is a basic felt paper. Do they still use that even today?
Yeah, they still use felt paper depending on the builder. Everyone's familiar with regular tar paper. They call it tar paper, felt paper, 30-pound. I think that's 30-pound felt paper. This is the old school. It's still in use. We use this a lot. Mostly we use the new stuff. The old felt paper, it's just basically tar impregnated paper, like with the old rosin paper.
Yep. And that's still used, but not as much.
It's still
as it
used, but
to.
not as much. When you staple this on the roof, remember you're walking on a pitched roof, this is a lot more, it's a lot flimsier than the new products. You can staple into this, and as you're walking, it'll actually pull free of the staples, and you can fall off the roof,
Oh,
slide down
that's
the
not
roof,
good. That's
depending
not
on the
good.
pitch. The new product, this is a, I don't even know what it's made of, some kind of a nylon polypropylene product. This stuff here, you need a knife to cut. You can't even rip that.
Look at
I mean, you
that.
could try hard, and it's barely going to rip.
Yeah, that's
And then
incredible.
this stuff here, you can staple this on the roof using just staples, and I could walk a 10-pitch with this.
And it's got like this is the side that'd be facing up, obviously, right?
Yep.
And this side is facing down on the roof.
Right. And it almost adheres.
I can smell the asphalt in that.
Like
tar.
the underlayment, like the ice and water. This is the stuff that would go down first. Ice and water.
And this has like little grit, like sand on it, like a shingle would have. Not as coarse, but it's got a texture to it.
Yeah, there's different products also. Grace, I think, is the company that first came out with the ice and water product. And theirs isn't gravelly, it's more,
yeah, I've seen that.
It's got like a sheen to it, smooth, really smooth. Difficult to work with in the summertime. It has a adhesive backing on it, so it adheres itself to the plywood.
You don't want to do that on a windy day, do you?
No, that stuff will stick on your face, and especially in the summertime. Difficult to work with. That's what this new stuff is. It's newer than the Grace, so it doesn't stick to everything.
I see.
I mean, if you touched a piece of Grace to anything, you wouldn't be able to peel it up. You'd have to ruin the whole piece, throw it away.
You got to tear it off. Now, do me a favor, Bill, quickly. If you could go over for us the advantages. See, and this is another advantage, and I've seen that people would do this. We had an issue quite a few years back where everybody was having ice dam issues. That's where the ice backs up in the gutter, up underneath the shingles, and runs down in the interior walls and just ruins the walls, comes down through the windows. And we had a real bad winter one year where it was freezing, thawing, and constant up and down with the cold and the warm air. So this might be what people don't think about. If you do a layover, you don't have the option. You'd have to strip up 3 or 4, 5, 6 feet and put this down, but then you get a little bump in your roof where the 2 layers meet the 1 layer. So you're almost better off to strip it just to put the ice and water shield down so you don't have that. And explain to us now how, we talked about it earlier, if you could explain to us how that ice dam actually causes the roof to have water come under the shingles.
We're working on a flat table, but just imagine that this was a pitched roof. You have your fascia board down here, and then you have your gutter. Your gutter fills up, and it freezes, and as it freezes, it expands. Snow melting. It continuously we're all familiar with ice dams. Like you said, a few years back, there was a point where I was getting paid to go climb people's roofs and smash the ice dams out. Spend 4 or 5 hours breaking ice out of a 20-foot gutter. It's a lot of money for a homeowner to pay just to have ice taken out. Well, what we have here is the ice water actually adheres to the plywood right above your gutter line. Well, imagine the gutter's here where the ice dam's going to come up. Normally the ice dam would work its way up underneath your old shingles. This is a relatively new product. 25 years ago, they didn't have this product, and that's where all the ice dam problems are occurring now. Nowadays, we just put the ice and water down first, and we put the drip edge on over the ice and water. So if any ice does get up underneath this drip edge, you've got the ice and water sealed, holding down and keeping the ice from getting into your eaves, ruining your fascia, your soffits, your rafter tails, maybe running down your wall, ruining a bay window, your electrical outlets, who knows what could happen. This saves all that.
That is pretty cool.
And you can see how it's already adhered itself right to the plywood.
And you didn't even have to press on it.
No,
it's
didn't even have to press on it.
Just the weight of itself. That's amazing.
But we would put it down and we would staple it, and then staple the drip edge on, and then go to town with the shingles from there.
That's amazing. And you go all the way up with this to the peak, to the ridge?
Mostly we only use that on the first 3 feet, and then we use the other underlayment products from there up, covering the rest of the roof. A lot of times we'll use, if it's close to the water, we'll use the ice and water running all the way up the rakes also. So it's going from the rake board in. We'll usually cut a piece in half for that process. So we won't use 3 feet all the way up. We'll use 18 inches going up each rake if we're near the water.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Or if a homeowner requests it.
Yeah.
Or a builder.
And it can't be much more to do that.
No.
It's just a little insurance against having ice dams and water problems. Because I've gone on, years ago when I was in that end of the business repairing rotten wood, and I've seen some soffits and fascia boards that were just totally destroyed from the ice and just the stuff that just got in behind it. Even in the nice weather, summertime, if their gutters aren't clean, I stress this to people all the time, and the water can't get down the downspouts, it backs
Right.
up. And it'll go over, 9 times out of 10, it goes over the edge of the gutter, but
Right.
it still gets down sometimes behind the gutter.
Yes.
And you know, gets down behind
Yes.
the fascia board.
And if your gutter's high enough, it can get behind the drip edge, behind the fascia board.
And it just wicks right up in
Mm-hmm.
there. Yeah, and I've seen that. And again, it's very important to have a company come in that's going to tell you the right way to do a roof and not take shortcuts.
Right.
A lot of guys are probably, you know, just want to get in and get out, and they don't care. They just want to make their money and get out. But a lot
Usually what I would recommend is, the way I would recommend it for my own house, I would use ice and water for the first 3 feet, and I would run it up the rakes and in all the valleys of my own house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If
that's
it's a
what
little
I would
extra-
recommend, and it's up to the homeowner's discretion to choose from there.
That's why I like the idea of stripping a roof right down to bare wood. That way you can go up in the valleys and everything else, like
Right.
you just said. I want to touch on the drip edge for a minute, if we could, Bill.
Okay.
That's a 6-inch drip edge, right?
Yes.
This drip edge, years ago, this is a 3-inch drip edge?
Yes.
And now what's the application for the 3 and the, I know the 6 would be used over the gutter. Would you use the 3-inch in that same spot?
Sometimes whoever makes the order for materials will order the small stuff accidentally. Usually this is used for the rake boards.
Okay.
You want to use this down towards the gutter. It gives you more of a nailer.
And they make that white, is that to match the gutter? You see the front of it?
Yeah, it looks a lot better than this, the mill finish.
Yeah.
Most of the times it's to match the gutter, and white pretty much goes with any color shingle.
True.
Doesn't matter you're using brown driftwood, moire black, it's going to look good.
Yeah.
This gray, no matter what you're using it with, always looks bad.
Yeah.
So, we discussed that too. This
The
is just
price
ugly.
is probably right at the time, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe on a shed or something. Okay, so we've covered pretty much what we want to cover on the membrane. And you brought some samples of shingles, right? Mm-hmm. Can we see those? Today, everybody's going with these new style shingles.
This is mostly
What do
what
they
everyone's
call this?
using today.
What do they call this shingle?
These are called architects.
Architectural. And they make these, and now I noticed these lines, which, these must be the lines that you set the shingle to when oh, I got them backwards.
Nope, those are your nailing strips. The manufacturer actually says you can nail anywhere below this blue line here.
Why did they give you 3 lines?
Well, this is the proper place to nail. If you read the package, it'll say anywhere below this line you can nail. That doesn't cut. These shingles are laminated, so from this blue line down, it's 2 shingles.
Oh, okay. I see. That's where the water's going to
Yeah.
hit.
So
I
you
got
can peel up one of the layers right there.
I see.
That double layer goes to the top of this line. So you want to put your nails between those 2 lines right there. That way there you're covering both courses, both the laminates.
I see.
So now you got a way better secure nail than if you had nailed it here.
But they don't give you, I mean, I'm assuming you hold your other shingle to this edge here, right? When you lay your shingle over it?
Yep, that's your watermark right
That doesn't leave you much room for clearance there with your nail. Like, especially using a nail gun, you got to be pretty right on the money with that.
Yeah, like
I mean, it's not,
anything-
like you said, it's not exact. I mean, you get it in that general area.
No,
But,
we try to stay pretty fastidious on hitting that same spot, whether we're hand nailing or using our gun. We try to keep our nails, and that's...
And you put a nail on each tab?
we
Is
use
that the
6
rule?
nails. Hurricane nails is the standard operational procedure nowadays, which is 1 nail here, 2, 2, and then 1. That would be a hurricane nail pattern. I'm just not going to nail into it because we're nailing on a piece of plywood. That's the table. So that would be your standard pattern. And most everyone today uses 1, 2, 2, and 1. That's a 6-nail pattern. It's called
Yeah.
hurricane nailing.
Yeah.
I think that's even in the codes. We do it regardless. And that's secure.
That's
and,
not going
and
anywhere.
by keeping your nail right there in your double layer, now you've got your nail actually through 3 layers, because when it goes through that, now you've got
Oh,
your nail
yeah,
through
yeah.
3 layers.
I see what you mean.
And that would be
Oh, that's.
much more difficult for the wind to pull that out.
And then you got the tar, the little tabs of tar right on the edge there.
Tar seals.
Yep, and they'll seal really quick. Well, that's quite a shingle. That's a what? How many year shingle is that?
That's a 30-year shingle right there. I think
30-year.
those are
That's pretty common.
Timberlands. Not even sure which bundle I pulled these off of today.
Now, I had bought a house many years back, and they hadn't finished the roof. And I went to buy some shingles, same color, got them to match, brought them home, and I started shingling. They weren't lining up. They were tab shingles, and they weren't lining up. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Somebody told me the shingles that were on the house before, they were fairly new. The house was only a year or two old. They discontinued them. They were a metric shingle.
Right.
And the shingles I bought weren't metric. So there was a difference, there was a variation on every shingle, and I couldn't figure out why the shingles weren't lining up. And they were an insulated shingle. Owens Corning made them years ago.
Yeah, that's a good brand.
They were horrible though. They broke because of the
they've gotten
fiberglass,
better.
But they still have them, fiberglass. So it's an insulating factor for your roof, which I thought was a good idea, but it didn't. Again, they discontinued it. There was some kind of there was a flaw with it or whatever. So I ended up stripping the whole roof.
You know what I think a lot of the problems was is they started using the plastic wrappings. They're wrapping every shingle in a plastic wrapper now. Remember the old paper wrappers, right? For one, they were easier to open. You could rip them open with your hand. But having a paper wrapper forced all of the lumber yards to keep all their shingles inside. But now that everybody's producing shingles in plastic wrappers, it almost gives them carte blanche to put them all outside year round. So you get your shingles in the wintertime, they're frozen blocks, they're solid, because no matter what you cover a shingle in plastic wrapper, still gets weather, rain gets in there, snow, they freeze into blocks. In the summertime, the heat makes them stick to each other. They seal themselves to each other. So summertime, you're smashing bundles to try to break them free. Wintertime, you're smashing bundles.
Yeah, they used to put them outside, but under a little roofed area, so that the rain and the sun didn't get on.
Right, and it seemed that the paper wrappers rarely had a problem with all the shingles sticking to each other.
Huh, that's interesting. You'd think the paper would be a cheaper product to use than the plastic.
Yeah.
That's
well,
interesting.
It's petroleum plastic, so why are we using oil to cover our shingles with?
It's all money. Excellent. Well, I could talk about roofs all day. There's so many things to talk about. I know we're running low on time too, believe it or not. Can you believe that? Yeah, we're running low on time. So a couple of quick things I want to ask you too about with a roof. I know I didn't do it on mine because I was a little skeptical, and I don't like ridge vents. I'm nervous about them. I have soffit vents and I have gable vents in the gable ends, but it's really not enough. So I ended up putting in these little vents on the roof in the back of the house. You can't see the roof; it's high up.
Louver vents.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you guys recommend ridge vents with all your applications?
We use ridge vent almost on every roof we do. I would recommend it. It seems, I mean, I could never understand the concept of opening up a ridge and then having all the heat that's built up into your house escaping out the attic until you start tearing apart the plywood on all these old roofs. You know, when you're replacing the plywood, you understand.
Moldy.
Yeah, moldy or black, like black almost
black.
because they've heated up so much and the glue delaminates. So for ventilation, and I think, I mean, it's almost standard operational procedure now to use ridge vent on every job.
Yeah,
unless we're near the water or the pitch is too shallow.
But you actually have to use that in conjunction with soffit vents, or it's not going to work.
True.
Because it's the
optimally true
to get that flow,
yes.
the rise of the heat. I wish I had done it on my house. I was nervous. The fact that I was afraid a wind-driven rain was going to come in and leak.
Your louver vents are adequate.
Well, I've got a pretty big house. My attic is huge, but I noticed some of my plywood was getting black. Some of the rafters are black. It looked like there was a fire up there.
Yeah.
And what I did was I pulled the insulation. I had a professional company insulate it when I built the house, and they put the insulation into the soffit overhang and covered up the soffit vents. So I had to go pull all the 10-inch insulation back to let the airflow come up. And I don't know if it stopped that mold process, but what I plan on doing, I say this every year and I never get to it, is I want to put in a couple of those thermostatically controlled fans in the gable vents to draw some more of the air out. But there's a lot to that stuff, and again, with the modern codes and everything today, a lot of things I wish I had done differently.
So you have vented drip edge in your house?
No, I don't.
You don't have vented drip edge?
See, you have
the soffit vents, same thing.
Well, the front of my house, is it's like an 11 pitch. It's straight up. It's a cathedral ceiling on the inside, and again, back then, they didn't put the baffles in up against the plywood like they're supposed to do.
Right.
I don't think it was code back then.
The little
it was back in the
styrofoam
80s.
baffles,
Yes,
yep.
and it's supposed to carry the airflow from the soffit up. Now they just put the insulation right to the plywood, so there's nowhere for the air to get up to the
Yeah,
ridge
and then
vent.
if you peel that insulation back, you'll find that it's usually soaking wet.
Yeah, I shudder to think about that, but anyways, there's a lot to that. We could do a whole show on, that type of stuff, the ventilation process, attics and soffit, the overhangs. There's so many different type of, they have the little plugs you can drill into your soffit.
Yep.
It's a pretty easy thing to do.
Yep, simple.
I mean, once you put your roof down and your drip edge is on, it's pretty hard to change it over to a vented
Right.
drip edge at that point.
Right.
So there's other options. I mean, you could,
Like you just said, the drilling with the plugs under your soffit.
you could, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people do that. I took my soffit right down and I cut it. I cut it
Yes.
and I put the strip vent in.
The soffit vents.
Yeah, I thought it was a better look. And,
Much better.
and it's just more airflow. And
Yep.
but I did that, and again, I wish I had done the ridge vent, but not thinking.
There's no such thing as putting too many louver vents.
Well, yeah, I probably will cut a couple more in on each end of the house because
Yeah,
I do
those
have
are easy enough to do.
sort of in the center. So we got to you have to maintain that roof, and if the attic gets hot, the shingle cooks from underneath also,
Right.
and that's what causes the shingle to get brittle and dry
Right.
and crack and break off. It's because you're not
Right.
venting your attic properly. So
Right, just imagine taking the shingle and cooking it on your stove. You're going to cook the tar and the asphalt. It's just going to separate from the shingle itself.
and over time,
yeah.
it's just over time
Just
it'll just start
deteriorates.
to curl and
I
everything
mean,
else.
it's got a bad enough problem having to deal with the sun from above, so
Yeah.
then the heat from
on,
below.
on the underside
Yeah, it's-
also. So very good. We've learned a lot today. It was really an interesting show.
I've learned that coming in from roofing outside into a hot studio is warm.
You got to dress down for this
Yeah, I
job.
should have taken some of my clothes off.
That-
I could have done another show,
Yeah.
naked roofing.
There you go. There you go. Naked roofing. Excellent, Bill. Thanks. I can't thank you enough for coming in today. I mean, Bill's out on the roof all day working hard, and he comes in here tonight into the studio to tell us a
Hardly
little bit
work.
about roofing. Well, I want to thank you for coming in tonight.
Thanks,
and,
Steve, for having me.
It was great having you. It really
was
it
fun.
opened my eyes up to a lot of things because, again, I'm not savvy on a lot of the new technology. I mean, I'm more into cabinet making now than I do miss this kind of work.
I think, aside from its importance on protecting your house, roofing is probably one of the most basic things you can do. Theoretically, you could roof your house with a rock and a sharp seashell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty basic. Not much has changed. Maybe some of the underlayment and maybe some of the designs, but everything's pretty close to being how it was in 1300 BC.
Our motto is tonight, keep it dry, folks. Thanks again, Bill.
Thanks again for having me.
We got to cut you loose.
Awesome.
We'll have you back again some other
Great.
time. We could do this
Great.
for an hour, easy.
Oh, there's a million things we could talk about.
Well, I want to thank you so much, and keep up the good work.
I will
thanks-
keep
thanks
up the good
to-
work, keeping rain
Thank-
out of buildings.
Well, that keeps us all dry. I appreciate it on them days, believe me. I want to thank everybody for watching the show today. I want to thank Bill Flaherty for coming into the studio and sharing his expertise with us. We'll have another topic on another show. I hope you can keep watching. We enjoy having you. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. You've been watching Around the House with Steve O'Brien.